On July the 10th, Anne Njogu, a human rights activist in Kenya, wrote as follows to friends and associates, quote, "The last couple of days have been a nightmare for me and several other civil rights activists who were arrested in a most brutal manner after police stormed the hotel where we were planning to hold demonstrations over grand corruption, sale of the Grand Regency Hotel by a cartel led by the finance minister, who has since resigned in disgrace over the same. But on Tuesday, 8th July, when they arrested 7 of us, the police not only brutally arrested us, but also sexually violated and harassed me and a male colleague. One senior officer even had the audacity to put his hand inside my trouser, fondle my private parts and my breasts, all this while the rest were busy brutalizing us. Upon arrival at the police station, my colleague sought to know from senior police officers why they had sexually assaulted me, and without warning, one police officer, who we have since learned was a deputy officer commanding the division, a very senior position, grabbed a police baton from one of the junior officers and set upon us in a most vicious manner. Other officers joined in, hitting, kicking, and insulting us, and it did not matter that some of us were already bleeding. We were later taken to court, charged with participating in an illegal assembly, never mind that we were inside a hotel, and it's the police who stormed in, and released on bail. The police also refused to record our complaint over the violations at the police station," end quote. The Grand Regency Hotel is in Nairobi. You will recall that in the immediate aftermath of the Kenyan election, the country, in parts, was reduced to chaos induced by ethnic mayhem. At an unprecedented rate, hospitals reported a huge intake of women raped and mutilated. One can't help but feel that that pattern of events, devastating for Kenya, may well have been the catalyst for episodes like those in the Grand Regency. Early last week, as everyone knows, charges of genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes were laid against President Omar Hassan al-Bashir of Sudan by the International Criminal Court. Embedded in the charges were grotesque crimes of sexual violence. If the phrase, "the killing fields of Cambodia," has entered the language, then the raping fields of Darfur cannot be far behind. Later in the week, the president of Indonesia was forced to express extreme regret for murder and rape committed by the Indonesian army when it was attempting to subdue East Timor. And at the end of the week, the Uganda Law Reform Commission reported to Parliament that of 6,000 people interviewed in a formal survey, 92% reported that some form of domestic violence was taking place in their communities. The report cites sexual violence, psychological torture, physical and bodily harm, and marital rape. The highest levels of violence were recorded in northern Uganda, where a bitter civil war has raged for more than a decade. It can safely be said that not a day goes by without some authoritative report from some country of hideous sexual violence directed at women. It has become a worldwide contagion, and it is a huge issue of public health. The health of the women, psychological, emotional, and physical, is torn asunder. That's the objective. There's not a region of the world that's exempt. It's happening in Iraq, it's happening in Afghanistan, and before anyone becomes too smug about it, it's worth recalling the astonishing article in the LA Times written by Jane Harman, chair of the House Homeland Security Subcommittee on Intelligence. She wrote that women serving in the U.S. military, are more likely to be raped by a fellow soldier than killed by enemy fire in Iraq. And then at a visit to the VA Healthcare Center in Los Angeles, the doctors told her, quote, that 41% of female veterans say they were victims of sexual assault while in the military, and 29% reported being raped during their military service. She also employs figures from the Department of Defense showing a 73% increase in sexual assaults within the military, 2006 over 2004. We're talking of almost 3,000 assaults. I repeat, no country, including this one, is exempt. And I return to the narrative. It's happening in the Middle East, it's happening in Colombia, and we know from the painful historical record that sexual violence occurred at nightmare levels in the Balkans and during the Rwandan genocide. Indeed, in both of the special criminal courts established for Rwanda and the Balkans, the judges have found genocide and rape inextricably linked. It never ends. There are appalling stories emerging from Zimbabwe of Mugabe's thugs raping with impunity. Inevitably, the news stories focus on the political condemnation of Mugabe, but just beneath the surface, roiling with hatred and brutality, is a pattern of sexual violence, shocking in its extent and ferocity. If proof be needed, just hark back to the Sunday London Times of July the 6th with the following headline: "A sharp rise in pregnancies shows ZANU-PF's campaign is reaching new depths of cruelty. The story begins, dozens of teenage girls have been made pregnant after being taken into the bush and raped in torture camps by President Mugabe's youth militia." In Liberia, where the savage civil war has finally ended, the raping continues unabated. In fact, rates of rape increased, as they so often do in the immediate aftermath of conflict, but instead of receding gradually as would be expected, they've continued to climb. A UNICEF survey revealed that more than half the rapes reported last year were attacks on girls between the age of 10 and 14. It does give new meaning to depravity. But the catalyst for the increasing worldwide concern is undoubtedly what's happening in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The gruesome litany of raping and sexual violence in the Congo has been chronicled for at least 12 years, since the aftermath of the Rwandan genocide. But it's probably fair to say that what prompted the crescendo of contemporary political awareness was a visit to the Congo in the summer of 2007 by Eve Ensler, author of the Vagina Monologues, and the remarkable piece of journalism she produced on her return, documenting the nightmarish dementia to which women had been subjected. 200,000 women is the most reliable estimate. There followed a sudden surge of interest amongst the media and within the United Nations. What the surge revealed is of particular note. None of what is happening in the Congo is new to the United Nations. The Security Council, the Secretariat led by the Secretary General, and a number of UN agencies working right there on the ground in country have known for a decade of the horrors visited on women. And it is one of the great inexplicable delinquencies on the part of the international community that virtually nothing was done about it before now. The violence has been the subject of a succession of authoritative and blood-chilling reports from Amnesty International to Human Rights Watch, with no result.